Hi everyone, a very fine good morning. Hope my voice and is clear and I'm visible. Cool. So let's wait for a couple of minutes and then we shall be starting. Hi everyone. Very fine. Good morning to all of you. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi. So hope all of you are doing well, and all of you can see and hear me. So it will be great if you people can confirm in the chat if I am audible as well as visible, and then we shall be starting. So cool. As you can see on the title, very fine. Happy Ganesh. Happy Ganesh. So hope all of you are doing well. And all of you can create can confirm in the chat if you are yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. So let's move ahead. So as per the topic goes, like how to prepare for CP, right? Competitive programming, and kind of the second part, how to get inside Microsoft, and more or less how the CP is going to help you. So that's a topic, and so initially what I'll be doing is we'll be uh, yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot, Abhishek. So we'll be going with the normal flow, like whatever I have, and then whatever questions you have, I have the chat open side by side, so I'll be able to see it, and I'll be answering. Fine. And if for any other questions and all, we can finally uh, have a Q&A at the end. Cool. Then let me start. So let's start with kind of my introduction. So I'm Angad, and currently I work at Microsoft. I have around 5 years of experience. I recently completed my 5 years in July. I started my career after graduating from an IDM Sherpur in 2019. I started my journey with Tata Steel, a steel production company. There I was in the IT department, and fortunately, a new mill was coming up, and we got to build the product from scratch. Company decided to build a product to run the plant at level 3 from scratch, and I was part of the team, so it was a great experience. Then I moved to a startup. There, the products were maturing, and there were three products. One was a performance management tool, and we shipped features. Here at Microsoft, I'm in web defense team, so basically my code protects your PCs from phishing, and the service is pretty huge. It serves around 24 to 25 billion requests per day. So that's a very huge scale thing. So that's a brief about my career. Then regarding mentoring and all, I started kind of 2 years back, and this is kind of one of the part where I am collaborating. So that's a brief about me. Now let's start with the topic and move ahead. Okay, folks. So please, I'm going to share my screen just to have an outline and so that I can write things and explain. So please confirm if you're able to see my screen, and we should be good. Also, feel free to put your questions in the chat. Okay. So yeah. So please confirm if you're able to see my screen, and then we should move ahead. Anyone? Okay. Great. Thank you. As the topic goes, how to prepare for competitive programming, popularly known as CP, right? So a lot of times the newbies who don't they are not much aware, they may hear CP from someone and wonder what the hell the CP is, right? So let's move ahead. Let's try to dig down the facts, how we work, right, and what you should be doing to become good at it. Fine. Okay. So yeah, so the first question itself is what is CP? Or CP here is like competitive programming. So let me kind of take briefly. So how it comes is like we have a CP. So the first part is competitive, kind of a competition, right? And then we have programming. Fine. So I think all of you must be aware of this thing, the programming. What is programming? And what do we do there, right? So basically, we write code to solve problems, and essentially, it's like A new person starts with writing simple code to add two numbers, and the complexity is like we have similar code having AI is helping us get answers more or less like humans. So that's where we have reached. Whatever software you're seeing around the world, everything is coded in something or some language, some framework, something. So everything essentially is a code, whatever softwares you see around you, right? From our smartphones to the mobiles to the obviously the YouTube on which we are live streaming, the platform I'm using to live stream, the software I'm using, everything is coded, is programmed. Fine. So, kind of moving ahead. So, it's like programming is generally writing code, fine. And competitive programming adds kind of a competition to it, right? So, it adds competition. That's it. That's how I see it. So, what basically happens is like in programming, if we see, especially in terms of preparation and all, right? So, we have all of you must have heard DSA, right? So, that is two parts, data structures, and the second part is algorithms. So, DSA, and that's where there are some data structures, some algorithms, and we solve problems based on data structures, based on using some data structures, using some algorithm, some problems, right? So you must have heard of a lot of problems, you must have solved a lot, I believe, right? So that's programming, solving the data structure, the questions. Basically, here we are talking specific context, solving questions related to data structures, algorithms, building our problem solving abilities, logical reasoning, and thinking in terms of how we can uh, get the work done with help of a machine using the code, right? So that's where, and so that's one part, writing code, solving the problems, right? And when competition gets added to it, right? When competition gets added, let's say some problem is given, fine, maybe let's take a very simple reversal linked list. Or let's say another thing, kind of maybe find some shortest path in a graph. And when a competition, so let's say we have some questions, and when competition gets added to it, let's say a lot of people trying to solve all these questions in a time bound manner, right? So let's say people trying to solve it. And that's where it becomes completely programming. So whatever contests we give on different platforms, we have Code Forces, Lead Code, Code Chef, all that. So whatever the contest we give, that's the major part of competitive programming. There you get some ranks, you get some ratings, and you can show it off. So that's what it is. Fine. Uh, Now let's move to the next topic. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask in the chat. I'm monitoring it. I'll be happy to answer. So basically, competition in programming, period. Nothing more. So it's not like a lot of people may think it is this, nothing. Just we add some time. Hey, these are problems. Come on. And let's say some thousand. Yeah, like a couple of days back, I was reading, and I think there are some 50,000 active coders or maybe more on Code Forces, right? So you, as an individual, competing against those people to solve those problems in a particular time period. Fair. So that's it is right. Now the question comes: why you should be doing like you have already prepared data structures, algorithms, solve some questions, right? Now, why be a part of competition? Why to practice CP? Why do it, right? There are two things. Simple, right? First and foremost, right? It helps you kind of think fast, right? It helps you do things at a you know time bound manner. So now if you take a look at how um, the hiring process works, right? You have time, right? And then you have to solve questions, you have to give answers to interviewers in those time bounded manner. Fine. So that's where it helps. Fine. Then again, especially like, for most of the big tech companies, right? So it's like be it Microsoft, Amazon, Google, whatever names you can put, right? Bang, the whole set of companies, all that stuff, right? So essentially, their hiring process is highly related, right? You get an online round, fine. A lot of for most of the software companies, you get an online round. There will be some 3 4 questions, and you need to solve, right? And then you will have interviews where you will be asked questions based on data structures and algorithms, and you need to tackle it, right? So when you practice CP, give contests, compete against people, you become real. The more you practice, you become really good at solving problems in time-bounded manner. Your accuracy, your speed improves, and then you will be able to perform really well in interviews, right? Because you're practicing, right? So let's say in a contest on Code Forces, you will be solving some 3 or 4 questions in some, and maybe similarly an online round in Microsoft or Amazon or Google, you will be solving some 3 or 4 questions in a 2 hour, and then based on that, you will be judged and whether you are in or out. Fine. So that's simple and clear. So why you should practice is it is directly one is for your improvement, right, in logical thinking, becoming good as a programmer, and another thing is hiring processes very closely related to it, right? So obviously, like most of folks want jobs, and that's why. So to get hired, to clear the rounds of big techs, you should be practicing. Fair enough. So I think this is now. If you have any questions around it, feel free to reach out, and I'll be happy to answer. Okay. So, moving sometimes, like I have been mentoring for the last 2 years, and I get this question, right? Sir, DSA karu ya CP? Fine. So, a lot of people might have doubt that DSA is something different and CP is something different, right? Uh, I generally then try to ask questions ki, like, what do you do in CP? CP में आप करते क्या हो? Fine. Then they try to answer ECP, maybe solve problems and all, and then they're like, isn't DSA right? So is it that not a part of what DSA nahi hai kya? So obviously these are not two different things. DSA and CP. So what you do is in when you say DSA, it's data structures and algorithms. You understand it. You solve problems and make solid fundamentals, right? Solid understanding. More or less just like you maybe let's say there is a marathon and you practice daily some kilometers for that, so that's what DSA is. And then it comes to CP for the same set of things, or I should say similar set of things, similar set of problems, you compete against people. So more or less it's a part, right? So these are no two different things. बिना डीएसए के आप सीपी नहीं कर सकते. Fair. So now you cannot directly jump to competition if you don't know the fundamentals, right? So you should have a solid understanding of which data structures to use to solve. Again, it's not like you'll prepare full DSA and then jump to C, right? So what you can do is you can build some, I should say foundational understanding. And once you have foundational understanding, you can start competing, you can start practicing CP from, like more or less some simpler questions, right? Simpler, trying to solve 1 2 questions, right? Trying to give contests, which are not that difficult, right? And then slowly improving. Fair. So again, CP and DSA are no two different things, right? Uh, it's like DSA is learning and practicing, and in CP you just add a competition to it. Fair. Now the question comes is like, how to prepare, what all things that you should be doing so that you are good in CP. Fine. You are able to crack interviews. Fair. So mostly we will be focusing things related to CP, but again, be it practicing DSA, be it practicing and preparing for interviews, be it preparing and practicing for CP. A lot of part is, it's like overlapping. Fine. So that overlapping thing we need to do for all of it, and then there will be some specific things we need to differ. Fine. So as of now, let's keep things focused on CP and discuss it at fair. So how to prepare now? Again, I was expecting some answers from the folks, right? So I'll wait and see. It's like if you have some pointers, right? Like maybe let's say what all set of things we should be doing, right? So maybe I'm looking at the chat. I'll wait for maybe some 30 seconds, and if I get some answers, that's great. Otherwise, I'll be moving ahead. So mostly how I see sessions is more of an interaction than a monologue. Fine. So whoever are watching, right, I can see there are good number of participants. So please put some answers if you know even a bit about it. Like knowing your point of view, what you think is really important, because obviously this session is definitely for you only. Fair. So go ahead, I'm waiting. And like if we get some answers, that's great. Right. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. Fair. So again, there will be some pointers, right? Some people are shy enough not to say, but anyways, it's fine. Let's move ahead. Let's try to see what all pointers I have. Maybe you might be thinking similar things in a different manner. Fine. So again, first and the most important point here is what is, right? You need very strong fundamentals, right? So here I have used, you can see a lot of words, right? So maybe a strong fundamentals, right? So strong fundamentals means you should be strong enough. You are should be good enough, right? So that you're able to perform in DSA. And again, here we have DSA, that is data structure and algorithm. Again with space and time, right? So let's try to break down all those things and understand in a detailed manner, right? So when I say strong foundation in DSA, right? So again, let me break it down, right? So let's say data structures, DS, that is data structure. So when we say strong foundation, you should know how those data structures work, right? Let's say arrays. So you should know how it works, what is it, how it's implemented, what are libraries implementing it so that you can use it in your language. Again, like which language to choose, it's totally up to you. Generally, like C, C++, Java, these are most famous languages. But again, any language is going to work. There's no issue with that, right? Again, let me list Python as well. Fine. So you should know how the data structure is. What is it, how it's implemented, and how you can use the library versions. Again, that is really, really important piece, how to leverage library version. Let's say you got somewhere to use a heap, right? You're not going to implement your own heap and then use it, right? You should know what library has already implemented in your language. Let's say when it comes to C++, it's a priority queue. It is an implementation of heap and we can utilize it, right? So arrays, linked lists, fine. Then trees, obviously, hash maps, graphs, trials. Again, there are advanced data structures as well, right? Again, stack, queues. So what you should be doing is you should know what is it, how it's implemented, what are the fundamental operations on this databases, this data structures. Fine. And solve some problems to understand how you can use it. Fine. So that's one part. That's related to, so knowing all the data structures, right? Again, it's like start, maybe learn array, linked list, stack, queue, and then start jump to see if you solve, at least see if you're able to handle these questions, right? So that's one part, very strong fundamentals. So that involves understanding how it works, implementations, and again, last but not the least, library things. This library thing is really, really crucial, and solving some questions on it. So that's way you will become good in DS, right? Then when it comes to, again, same things for algorithms. So you should be knowing key what all are, let's say, recursion, right? Then backtracking, BFS, DFS, right? All these are algorithm, shortest path, all that stuff, right? All these are algorithmic techniques, right? Sliding window, two pointers, right? So these are algorithmic techniques which helps you solve the problem. So you should have a very solid understanding. Hey, let's say if I'm using recursion, right? So there will be definitely a base case and a recursive case. If for any problem I'm able to think these two cases separately very well, I'm done, right? Let's say you're using some two pointers, so there will be two pointers, their starting point and in which direction they will move, if you're able to figure. So let's say for any algorithm, what all things you need to figure out, that's the most important thing. So if you know, okay, let's say I'm shala, and how and where that algorithm is getting used, how it's helping you. So if you know those things, so let's say for some problem, you say, hey, I think I need to use DFS. You got, and now you have very clear in mind, hey, that's how I implement DFS. You can quickly solve that. Fine. So that is about data structures and algorithms. And when I say strong fundamentals, that's the key. So you should have very strong understanding. And once you feel my understanding is good enough, solve some problems so that you can test yourself. Right. Again, question practice. Again, taking this same topic forward, I'll move ahead, and here I'll discuss about space and time, right? So when we talk of space, right? So whatever solution you have built, how much space it is taking? So there are two questions, right? How much space? So how much space is a different, like let's say the input itself is an array or a matrix, and then you need to return output also as a matrix, right? So that's a different story. What's important here is a word, how much extra space apart from input and the output you need to give, how much extra space you need for doing the processing. So you should be well aware of this space or auxiliary space you need. Let's say there is an array, and to process and reach to the answer, you need another array, right? Or you need some, let's say 2D array, fine. Or you need a hash map where there can be maximum up to n entries, fine. So that's how you should be well aware. Let's say if you're using anything, how much extra space, and why you should be knowing is so that you can compare. Let's say the problem is asking to solve in constant, right? Order of one space, right? And if you're taking order of n, it will fail, right? And again, it can be, see, there are different solutions to any problems, and some problems may take more space and more time, some may not, right? So you should to find optimal ones, you should be good at space. What is the space my problem is taking, and how I can optimize on it, how I can improve on it. So that's, and again, the next point I'll take is this time. Fine. So we did with DSA, we are done with space. And now the time. So time complexity is really crucial, right? I do not know, but here at Microsoft, right, we have jobs, right? And even after using huge cluster, maybe let's say some 100 nodes, right? Sometimes it takes, some 8 hours to process. Some jobs are taking even 2+ days to just get out, right? In the logs, it's hard to process without putting some indexes and all. We can't process logs of more than 15+ minutes. Reason being, the data is too huge. It will, let's say, some 5 TB of data processed just for some 15 minutes, right? So that's how, when scale grows, when there are large sets of data, then kind of this time becomes really complex. And all the game is how you can optimize it. Fine. So you should be well aware of how to find time complex. What are different types of, generally there are loops and recursion. So how for a particular recursion type you are able to find time complexity, how for particular loops, different types of loops, you are able to find time complexity and optimization on it. Let's say there is an array. So you should know, if I have to traverse the whole array, I can never do it in less than order of n. Right? If I have to see all the elements, it's going to take at least 10 times because I have to see all the elements of the array. Fine. If I don't have to see, then there can be some things, right? Just like there might be binary search, which can do it in order of log n as well. Fair. So that's the thing. So again, I discussed all 3 points, right? Feel free to put questions in the chat. So we have this fundamentals, DSA, space, and time, all those stuff. Okay, folks. So let's move ahead. The second, so first point, again, it's kind of 3 sub-points: strong fundamentals in data structure algorithms and space and time complexity. The next thing goes is, you should code fast, right? I don't know. Most of the people must be doing some touch typing. But let's say you are competing against other coders and time, and you are seeing keys and typing. That's it's not going to take you anywhere. So you should be able to code fast, and code fast means your hand should work quickly, right? So that's like you're good. You have a good typing speed. Again, you don't have to be a expert, but again, a good typing speed is needed, right? Then what else? How else? Again, you are, good with syntactical things, like you're not making a lot of mistakes, right? Let's say you got to write some loop. It's very clear in your mind, right? Key, hey, that's how I'm going to write a loop. Fine. So fast typing, right? Fast coding. So if you got a good approach, right? You should be very clear how I am able to convert it quickly into the code, right? So that's what fast coding means. You have a clear idea and you're coding it quickly. Fine. Debugging is, again, let's say you got some issue, your code is not running, not producing the output expected. You should be able to do it quickly. You should be able to, figure out quickly, and how you are going to become good at that, right? Again, by practice. So fast coding and debugging, these are things. So again, what happens? A lot of people, what they do is when they get, there is some issue, what they go and they put some outputs and all. So that should be the last resort. Fine. Again, use of some memory, right? Here, this is a very crucial thing, and I to whatever mentees I teach and all, I highly recommend it, right? Everything is a mix of memory plus logic. You must have remember, like we have some formula, right? A plus b whole square, and we memorize a square plus b square plus 2ab. Why the hell we are doing it? Again, we have a plus b whole cube as well. Why the hell we are doing it, right? We are doing it so that whenever I have to use it, right, I can quickly do the computation, right? Speed. Let me write a single word for it, and it would be speed. Now, how it's related in DSA, right? Again, never get it with I'm asking you to memorize a problem, right? There's a difference. Let's say in math you memorize something versus you have memorized this, right? So it's different, right? This is not solution to a particular problem. It's just a formula. Similarly, in coding, I see formulas, right? And once you focus enough, let's say very simple thing, find all subarrays of an array. So let's say you have to find for us some question. You need to find all the subarrays of an array. You should be good at it, man. Whenever it comes, hey, then your mind don't have to even think. Your hand should be writing. Let's say, I always ask this question. If I ask you to print an array, do you even need to think? No, your hands will code itself. No brainer. You will just your hands will move ahead and coding will be done, right? So that's the proficiency you should attain with some constructs, right? With some constructs like this one, right? So find all subarrays. Again, there is a very famous approach, take not take, in recursion, right? If you have read that topic, take and not take. Fine. So you should have a very clear map. Hey, for this problem, I'm using take not take. Now let me code the basic structure quickly, and then if something is needed for this particular problem, I'll tweak it. Right. So it's more or less again the famous algorithms BFS. Right. You should have a very clear flow. I need to use a queue. This is the code structure, and I'm coding it. Fine. So you should practice enough, right? Whenever you got to know, hey, this is something I need to code. You're able to code it quickly. You don't have to think, means you're not making mistakes in those things, right? Let's say, hey, now I know I have to use BFS for this, right? Or DFS for this, right? Or maybe some XYZ algorithm, and I'm not able to code it, right? I have to think through it and find the algorithm. Similarly, like, trying to derive the formula. So that understand the difference. All of you must have done it, even if you are not from a mathematics background, right? Trying directly using a plus b whole squares formula versus trying to derive it. Fine, that's the whole difference it makes. That's where you can quickly jump to things, right? Instead of trying to figure out what should. And again, that comes with practice. Now, how and what all construct you should be trying for that? It's very simple. On the way, when you're solving problems, when you see repetition, when you see something is repeating, you're using the same thing again and again, then just make a note of construct. Yeah, this is something I'm using again and again. I should be having a good hand. As simple again, don't go. Let's say some people will say, hey, this construct, this pattern. No, whatever you are finding, right? Other people might have, but when you have seen it, you have used it, it should be it's yours now. Fine. So again, use of some memory. Again, to be very clear, it's not about memorizing solution. Memorizing and moving up never works in the long run, right? It may work for immediate things, but never in the long run. Fine. Now, patterns, right? So a lot of people out there will tell you about, hey, this pattern, that pattern, right? But again, what I emphasize is obviously there are patterns, and you should be knowing that, right? We should be good at patterns, understanding it, trying to see what pattern to use. But again, it should come from our own understanding, right? You're solving problems, right? And then you see something, hey, this is something, right, which is getting used, right? This is something I see, fine, hey, maybe here, if the problem is of this nature, I'm able to use this thing, fine. So when you solve problems, you will start, that's how our brain works, right? So whenever we see something new, some new problem, we try to use all our knowledge and experience in that. Again, it's not we purposefully do it. That's how our brains are wired to do things, right? So again, not learning, not going and hey, this patterns, right? And I'll be knowing it, and then I'll try it. No, not that way. Fine, solve the problems, know different solutions, and then be a bit conscious. Hey, there might be patterns, and if I know those patterns well, right, I'll be problem solving will become a bit easier for me. So again, through your own experience, know those things. Again, you can go ahead and verify, right? Let's say if someone is saying, hey, these are the patterns, and you have already identified it in the problems, right? So that's way. Fine. So knowing it through your practice, through your own things will help you a lot, right? Again, there is not much harm, but again, if you go ahead, just memorize things, right, and then try to use it, it's not going to help. Fine. So here the focus is it should come from your own understanding, right? That's where it's going to help. Where now the next thing is again the very important thing. If you even know all the fundamentals, you know everything, and you don't practice, things are not going to. So, all as said, right? Practice makes men perfect. Again, I will not say that practice makes people perfect, or I don't know. We should not even keep these things to people. It works for animals as well. So practice makes anyone perfect. Practice, the more you practice, perfection comes out of it. Fine. So practice it, practice things, maybe. And when here the more important thing is, let's say you solved maybe some 15 problems, right? At the weekend and not doing anything on the whole week, right? So regularity is really important, right? Try to do as regular, maybe make a schedule. Right. Let's say there's a guy, he practiced all maybe some 2,000 questions, very good with good ratings on different platforms, and now sleeping for 2 years, right? Again, when he'll come back, he'll face similar issues, right? It's not like he has. So the you if you lose the practice, you're going to go down. So this is really the key. Fine. Again, there is a word we use for it, right? That's consistency, and maybe we'll emphasize more on that. So practice it regularly. Fine. Practice with an open mind, and then things should fall in place. Right. Again, when I say practice, right, where all to practice, there are numerous platforms, right? Numerous, right? No one has any secret sauce, right? So wherever you are practicing, things should be good enough, right? So again, these are some famous I have noted down, right? This is mainly for, here you can practice daily questions, contests. There are questions topic wise. This is mainly for contests, right? Here contests are there, but again, four forces is specifically for it, right? So this is something you should use to become good. Start practicing with smaller levels, Div 3, Div 2, and slowly, So Div 3 you should start, see if you're able to solve at least 1 2 problems, right? Geeks for Geeks is again, it's for, mostly studying, though it has practice and all, but it has very good content on studying different topics, trying to understand it. Fine. So that's how there are a lot of platforms again, and whatever you choose, fine. So there are different platforms suiting for different things, right? Again, one very important thing, you can target some questions based on company tags, right? Let's say you want to get into Microsoft, so filter out some questions, be it from Geeks for Geeks or Lead Code, right? at least these two platforms are, they have company tags, so you can use it to kind of optimize again. Fair folks, again, what's the key, right? This is a question, right? Again, it's like I have been mentoring for last 2 years, and a lot of people come to me, and most of the people face an issue, right? And I hope all of you, maybe I would love to see it in the chat. What's the issue that most of the people face? It's not any technical. It's not. Yeah, I would love to have that word, right? It's they are not able to stay consistent, right? So let me write it. So the issue is consistency. And it is the key, right? If you are consistently doing even a random problem per day, right? If you are consistently practicing, maybe just taking out some going, and maybe let's say you decided I'll give maybe some 1 or 2 contests every week, going on any platform, giving contests, right? Fine. It is going to help and you are going to improve. Fine. So this is the most important factor in, be it DSA, CP, interview preparation, right? This is the most important thing, and most of the people face issues with it. So the best thing I recommend is maybe set a time for you, right? Maybe, if not much, 1 hour, 30 minutes, block it on your calendar, right? And during that time, just sit and go, fine. Again, I would love to hear from the folks who all face issues with consistency, right? So, can I have some answers in the chat? Okay, fair. So, um, again, if you are not consistent enough and you do whatever things I talked previously, everything, right? Again, it's not the case key, it's not going to help. Obviously, let's say if you understood something very well, right, at some point of time, then coming back and again revising, it's definitely helpful without any doubt, fine. But again, staying consistent gives you an edge and keeps you in the game, right? So you will have good ratings on platforms, and in result, you'll be able to clear your OS and interviews. So that's the thing, folks. Let me write interviews well. Cool. So these are the things. Now, again, the next topic is kind of getting into Microsoft. I think I already gave a bit of hint, right? But let me kind of give some specific idea on this, right? So, uh, be it Microsoft or I would suggest any company, practicing DSA and all that is, really, really important. Where you can get, for if you have prepared for JE, right? At any point in life, there is a famous book called, I don't know, during my time, it was some 36 years. Previous question, 36 years, right? Like that. This time it might be a lot more, maybe some 40, 45, right? So that's the thing. The previous interview experiences. So if you are good at CP, you have practicing regularly, you'll be able to clear OS, right? And then you will get a chance in interviews. And in those interviews, if you're a very good like in DSA and all, you should be able to clear. There's no doubt on that. But again, what can give you an edge is you can go and read previous interview experiences. And trust me, from my own personal experience, it has happened with me. I read previous interview experiences, sit for an interview, and I got same or similar question. A lot of my I suggested to all my mentees, and they have got same question, same or similar. So let's say in an interview, even if you got one same question, right, you will have an edge, man, right? So that's the thing. Ki, this is a very important aspect, right? So practice. If you are not able to find, right, let's say you're not. Let's say for this you can go to lead code to find, or Geeks for Geeks. And let's say if you're not able to find question on any of the platforms, then what you can do is you can go ahead and reach out to people who have recently cleared interviews and ask their experiences. Fine. And again, like, these are things that you can do on yourself, right? By yourself. Fine. There are things you should take other self, just like taking some mentorship or mocks, right? So give some mock interviews, right? Or give some contest. How I see it as the contest, CP contests and all. They are more or less like a practice for your own rounds, right? And the mocks are kind of a practice for your interview. So that's how, folks. So that's pretty much from me, right? I'm done. Thank you all for joining and listening to me, right? So that's it from my end. Thanks a lot. And if you have any questions, right, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, we can close. So thank you so much, folks, for joining and listening to me. It's really great. And from next time, I'll be expecting more of an interaction, right? More of a, talking and interacting with each other, right? So that's it. Thank you. Okay, so if there are any questions, right, you have, just go ahead. I'll maybe some 30 seconds. I'll wait. If I got any questions, I'll be answering. Otherwise, I'll be closing. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Abhishek. Okay, folks. So thank you so much. If you have any doubts, any questions, right, uh, do put things in the chat and we'll be reaching out to you. Fine. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. All the best for your career, right? And yeah, all the best. Bye. Have